3-5, that no man shall be able to stand before you all your life. And as I was with Moses, so I am with you. You will possess every place that the sole of your feet shall tread on the land. And so when he asked them to go and possess the land, and Joshua was leading, the promise was certain and sure. But God did not include the authority over Jordan. He only told them, no man can stand before you, Joshua. He didn't make any mention of inanimate objects. And so Jordan had become something like impenetrable barrier between them and the land of their possession. You see, Joshua chapter 3, let me read it to your hearing. Joshua chapter 3 and verse 13. If you read from verse 13 through to verse 16, you see that the river was flowing from upstream, and it came with a fierce force that crossing it becomes very dangerous. And then God told the people that your land, your possession, everything that I have promised you, your forefathers, lies ahead or beyond the Jordan. To be able to get to Jordan, to be able to get to the promised land, they needed to cross Jordan. And this is the decree that God gave to them. And that decree is what we need to take note of throughout this message. Joshua chapter 3 and verse 13. Let's hear the word of God. And it shall come to pass, as soon as the soles of the feet of the priests who bear the ark of the Lord of all the earth, shall rest in the waters of Jordan, that the waters of Jordan shall be cut off, and the waters that come down from upstream, and they shall stand as a heap. The Lord was telling them, I have promised you to give you that land. Nobody can take it away from you. It is a promise that I made to your forefathers. Now this is the time that you need to deploy and take the land. But there lies Jordan. And God told them, just get up, just arise and go over this Jordan. But the going over Jordan, God needed to do something to prove to them. He needed to do something for them to know that he was in control. You see, the river was at flood stage. In fact, because the force with which it was coming from upstream, it was at flood stage. And there was no way that they could cross it. There was no bridge. There was nothing. And God knew that the river Jordan was there when he told the Israelites to go and cross over to take their promised land. It is not as if God didn't know that they were going to encounter it. It is not as if that God was not aware that they will be afraid because of the force with which the river was flowing. It is not as if that God didn't know that they will be discouraged, that just beyond the Jordan lies their promised land, their possession, and yet Jordan is becoming an obstacle. God knew it. And God was aware. But he gave the command to Joshua. Straightforward. Arise, go over this Jordan. And it was a command to all the Israelites. And thou and all these people unto the land which I will give them. Maybe as humans, we might ask ourselves, how did God expect the Israelites to get across that river and take that possession? It might be interesting to be asking yourself, that didn't God see that the river will serve as an impossibility to the people? But God was quiet. He was silent on that aspect. But the only thing that was important was that he had given them a command to go. And how they needed to go, he gave it, he attached it. And that is what he said in Joshua chapter 3, verse 13. The Lord saw that the river Jordan could not be a barrier. The Lord saw that the river Jordan could not be the reason for their impossibility to possess the land. The Lord saw that the river Jordan made no difference to him when it comes to he giving the possession to his people. And the mechanism that God used is so spectacular. the priest who bear the ark of God had nothing but the ark, the presence of God. And the word of God says that as soon as the sole of their feet touches the river, it will not just part into two, but the force with which it is coming, it will halt and it will heap like a mountain on their side, and then they will cross. That is what the word of God said. I tell you today, God gave his people this plan so that by his strength and by his wisdom, they could accomplish the impossible. You see, in possessing our possession, we need to understand and know that it is not out of our strength. It is not out of our plan. The strategies to be able to possess our possession comes not from human intellect. It comes not from human skill, but it comes from the divine. God knew that they needed to possess the land. God knew that the river Jordan was going to be an obstacle. God knew that the people were going to get scared and afraid and discouraged by the river Jordan. But God had a plan. And the plan was that he didn't construct any bridge over the river. He didn't divert the river. But the Lord caused that his presence by the ark, when the priest stood in the water, then the speed with which it was flowing downstream, it halted. And it became a heap. Then the way was path, or the path was created. Way was made in the river that God's people could travel in. The Lord told Joshua to instruct the priests who were carrying the ark of the covenant to cross over the Jordan first. The Lord said that as soon as the sole of their feet touched the water, the river Jordan would stand up in heaps so all the people could pass over on dry ground. In the natural state, it sure didn't make any sense to send the priest into a river at flat stage. When the river is flowing, you take countries and nations, Ghana and others, when it rains and there are floods all over, and something of yours that is precious falls into the water, you can't dare run into it to go and take it, you will die. The speed with which flood waters travel, that was the same speed with which the river Jordan was flowing from upstream downwards. And God told Joshua that he should let the priests who bear the ark of the covenant step into the river first. In human sense, were the feet of the priests excavators? Were they construction machines? Not at all. But God knew what he was doing. Even at flat stage water, the Lord knew that the water was very swift and was traveling at a top speed. Man would suppose that was going to be the end of the life of the priest. That was going to be the end of Israel going to possess their possession. But the Lord knew that the ark with which they bore on their shoulder signified his presence with Israel. Therefore, as long as he was present by the river Jordan will obey he who created it. And therefore, the river will halt its advance. And the river will become like a heap. And dry ground will be created. And his people will walk through and possess their possession. I share with you the concept of obedience. The concept of faith. God knew that Jordan was going to be an obstacle. Yet he told Joshua and the Israelites to arise and possess their possession. The faith we have in God